Hey everybody, this is Chris Thompson, and welcome to session number 38 of Brain Software with Dr. Mike Mandel. He admits he eats too much pizza, thinks London is the greatest city on earth, and hopes that his wisdom tooth never descends. He is the center of the hypnotic world epicenter, the rider on the hypnotic storm. He is none other than Dr. Mike Mandel.
Yes, Chris, here we are, podcasting from the realms of enjoyment, the very center of the epicenter of global hypnosis, Toronto, Canada, and we are bringing you the stuff that matters, the stuff that will change your life, free to you and at our own cost, because we care more than anyone else.
That's right. So we've got a bunch of stuff that we want to talk about today.
Yes, we do.
Now, the fact that you eat too much pizza is okay because you admit it.
I admit it, so it's okay.
Yeah. So let's...
I don't know, man. I love Indian food, and I love pizza, and I really have trouble cutting the pizza down despite the wheat and the GMO and all this stuff.
Well, I guess you're not at threshold.
I guess not.
All right, let's talk about Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy.
I want to address that whole wisdom tooth thing first.
Go for it.
Now, yes, the reason I think London's the greatest city on earth, and it's up against some huge competition with New York and Paris especially, and Sydney, Australia, I love as well. But London, it was the great Samuel Johnson who said, "When a man has tired of London, he has tired of life, for all that is needed can be found there." Or words to that effect, but he's dead, but he can't complain if I got it wrong.
I guess he can't.
The wisdom tooth, Chris. I only got one wisdom tooth. And don't make jokes about my intelligence or anything based on that. But it is in the upper right. It never emerged. And not only is it not even close to emerging.
You mean it never emerged or it never awoke?
It never awoke. Yeah, thank you. But this stupid wisdom tooth, you look at an x-ray, it's so high up, it's practically in the parietal lobe of my brain.
It's almost part of your brain.
Almost. They said when I was in my 40s it would descend and they'd have to go in with scalpels and excavating crews and cut that sucker out of there. But it's not descended, praise God. So it's still there as a personal friend and almost a pet.
Excellent. All right, let's talk real quick because the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy...
Language police, quickly.
Has been out. The Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy has now been on the market for over a month.
Yes, and we're getting a great response, Chris. As you know, we have students Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan, Ireland, Germany, Norway, Bahrain in the Middle East, all over North America.
United Kingdom.
Interacting with each other, just having an absolute blast. And we got one in Luxembourg as well.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. And we are pressing on and seizing the hypnosis world by storm. Check out our online training. We are absolutely doing our best to make it the best online hypnosis training anywhere.
So here's my very short commercial for it. We just wrapped up the July Architecture of Hypnosis class here in Toronto, and we had many people from all over the world come out, and of course...
Czech Republic, first time.
Yeah, Eric.
Hello,
Hi.
Eric.
Hello, Eric. And how's your pinky doing? We'll talk about more on that later.
More about that later, yeah.
The feedback has been phenomenal. So I really love that we got email from people who joined the online training after they did the live training. And they said this is some of the most organized and most well-delivered and structured content they have ever seen online.
I know, Chris, it's true. And the interesting thing is these are people who have already done the training and have paid into the online stuff to keep reviewing it and having fun with it.
Yeah, which is really, really awesome. So anyway, that's it for our little short commercial. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/... What the heck is it? Academy. That's it. Academy. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/Academy will get you to the sign-up page. Become an amazing hypnotist. And not only that, learn how to have really interesting and fascinating conversations with people and learn how to control the conversations and build rapport and use language patterns.
And just have a better life. I mean,
Absolutely.
Why not, guys?
Yeah. If it's not worth doing, if it's not fun, it's not worth doing, as
Exactly.
you said, right? All right, let's talk about the importance of flow state.
Oh, flow state. Yeah, this is interesting because this is one of the human givens, the idea that we all need to get into a flow state. And a flow state is one of those remarkable situations where we become unaware of time and we're doing something and are fully absorbed by it. We all have a need to be able to do this, and it's really good for our brains when we do. It could be while you're gardening or playing a musical instrument or something, or writing material, whatever it is. That flow state is a very, very powerful thing, and it's also very important for your mental health. And I've discovered over the years how crucial it is for me when I'm working on any project to ensure I get into the flow state without interruption, because I've got so much stuff in the RAM of my brain all the time. Like while I'm speaking now, I've got little ditties playing in the background and stupid music and stuff. My brain is always like that. And in order to create or work, I have to shut down all that internal noise and static. And to do so, it takes me about 10 minutes. And then I get into a flow state. The worst thing for me at that point is to be interrupted. If you're a person who hates interruption, make sure you don't get interrupted. It wrecks everything for me. And when I was a kid...
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, by all means.
No, I'm just interrupting you.
It's okay, I wasn't in a flow state. But when I was a kid, when I was a lad, my parents sort of got this, but they never understood what constituted an interruption. So they thought it meant if they were loud, they were interrupting me, and if they whispered, they weren't. So I'd be working on a school project. I'd finally be in the zone, in the flow state, getting stuff done, Aztecs and Incas and where they are over Central America, and I'm drawing this thing, and my mom would come in and whisper and say, "I don't want to bother you. Can I get you a nice cup of tea or something?" Thinking that by whispering, it's somehow not affecting me. She's just yanked me right out of the flow state. And I go, "No, Mom, I'm fine. Just leave me alone." "Okay, I just didn't want to interrupt you." "You've interrupted me, Mom. Just please, I love you. Go away. Stop whispering at me," which is why I hate whispering to this day. Any kind of interruption would draw me out, and it would take me several minutes to get back in the flow state. It's the same right now. And when I'm on stage, if I'm doing a presentation or a stage show, it takes me a few minutes to get my brain into that flow state. And the worst thing for me is being surrounded by people who keep talking to me with incessant chatter. Every time I have to answer them, I'm yanked back out of the flow state and have to reset and start trying to get back into it again. And it becomes trying because I'm not getting there as easily. And my wife didn't used to understand this, Chris. She used to say, "Oh, I know you're working so much. Get Paul or Bruce to go with you. It'll be a nice break. Give someone to talk to." I'm saying, I don't want anyone to frickin' talk to. That's the problem. I need to zone out and get in my zone. But the weird thing about this, and then we'll tie it in with our listeners, is you need to be in a flow state on vacation too. And that's what happens.
Good point.
Like if you're really busy with your job and you need a vacation and you take a week, most people find it takes them a couple of days to get into that groove, into that flow. And until then, they're still carrying the baggage of their work week and all the stuff. They finally get in the groove, and then they start thinking about going back to work, and they lose the flow state, and all the anxiety of going back to work comes in. So they get about 2 days out of a week, which is their actual vacation. So you've got to remember, structure these things into your life. Let your breaks be flow states where nobody interrupts you. Let your vacations be flow states where you leave your work behind. And when you're working on anything, don't let people jar you out of that. You need to be in that state to function well.
So let's give people some tips then. How can you get in, like, let's say someone is about to go on vacation. They know that they are going to have to bring their smartphone with them and keep in touch with the office and all the other crap that goes along with, having a job and being on vacation at the same time where people where you're expected to deal with people back at the office. Telling someone they need to get into flow state is certainly truthful. But how do they do it?
Very, very good question. And you've got to remember, it's not easy for a lot of people, but there are certain strategies you can use. One of them is limit your contact with your work and with the outside world when you're on vacation. When I'm up at our family cottage for a month this summer, I'm not checking my email all day or available on text messages. I'll have the dinger turned off so I'm not hearing the text come in, not hearing the emails come in, and I will check the email when I get up in the morning with morning coffee, and I'll check it in the evening before bedtime. And anything that needs to be attended to can be done on those 2 checks. Give yourself that 10-minute window, and that's it. And you say to yourself, I'm not going there again. The rest of the time, I'm going to enjoy where I am. If the world ends, I will find out about it without checking with the media, and breathe your stuff away. So when you're going on vacation, put all of your stuff, bundle it up in your mind, set it on the side of the platform or at the side of the check-in at the airport or at the gate where you're getting on your plane. Just set it there in your mind and breathe deeply. Exhale and leave it there. It'll be there when you come back. You'll be functioning far more efficiently and effectively if you leave the work behind.
This is a really good point, and it makes me think about the discussions we've had about TV and people watching too much TV. And we talked about this morning when we did the creativity webinar for our online students. The whole idea of TV is it drops you into a trance that isn't very effective because it's the television that's controlling the trance.
Well, it's not a very useful one. It's really effective from their point of view.
That's true, yeah. It's not effective for you as the watcher or listener, shall we say. And in much the same way, the internet is going to put you into, it's going to guide your thinking, guide your conscious bits of information and what you're focused on in a way that isn't necessarily useful. And if you just shut it off, you don't have those distractions. The internet is very much a distraction, just like your mom coming in and interrupting you doing your homework.
Oh, for sure it is, Chris. And when I'm away, I have to do a bit of writing because I'm writing and completing the course we are teaching on September 7th, the graphology course. Now, I want to organize it, make it really good. But I will have to go there at some point during my vacation. But I'm not going to be working on it every day. I'll structure some time to work on it.
And then
I'll choose that time. And I'll put the laptop away. I'm not going to be spending my whole vacation on that. I want to be out in a kayak and sitting on the beach and looking at loons and drinking a glass of wine and relaxing.
Yep, that's true. I mean, I know as someone who checks email pretty religiously, when I take my kids to the park, if I leave my phone at home, it is the best thing I could possibly do. And to me, that's the same thing as shutting off the TV.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
It's get in a flow state of enjoying playing with my kids, or get in a flow state of enjoying, whatever it is that you're doing. You can't be in that flow state if you're being interrupted by the internet, by someone else, by thoughts of work, whatever it is. So
learn to get there and stay there for protracted periods of time. Your mental health will benefit immeasurably from it. And while we're on this, I'll just say as an aside, Chris, which was so funny, the demo you gave me when we did the video shoot the other day with Adam Sutherland, and via your daughter watching a movie on Netflix, and you said, look at the trance she's in.
Yeah.
And she was exhibiting all sorts of external trance indicators, flaccid muscles, eyes staring, slow blink reflex. And Chris said, watch this. I'm going to let you, take this catalog and go order all these different things in this catalog. And she never looked up. And you said, I'm going to do this and this, and you're going to get to go to such and such. And she never looked up. She didn't hear him.
Yeah.
And then when they said, we got to go, and she closed the laptop, and you said, and I'm going to triple your allowance. And she spun around and went, what? What did you say?
Yeah, because she was out of the state.
Finally heard you, broke the state.
Yeah, she was totally tranced out. And I what I'd said to her is, you can have the American Girl catalog, and you can pick everything that you want, and I will buy it for you. And I knew she wasn't paying attention because she was totally tranced out.
So I couldn't believe it. It was
hilarious.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was very, very funny. So let's, you know what? I'll close off on that subject also by saying that in 2011, when I took my family to France for 10 weeks, we did something unusual, which was I needed to have
rented a TV when you were there.
I needed to have internet access at least some of the time while I was there, and I was buying these prepaid passes that would work for 48 hours, unlimited. So we would basically binge consume or download whatever it is that we wanted to, videos and stuff for the kids to be able to watch at nighttime to relax. And I would check my emails during those 48 hours. And then we would go 3 days without any internet connection at all.
And how were the anxiety levels?
They really weren't bad at all.
Wow.
They basically, the first 3 days I was like, getting hooked up and stuff, getting everything working. I was like, I hope I'm not missing any, disasters that I need to fix, whatever. And then everything just became this flow state of, it can wait 3 days. No big deal.
Nice. And it really can.
All and it was fine. All
right. You know what I wanted to address, and we haven't even got this on our list. How about that really cool email we got from the guy in Slough, England?
Oh,
the engineering technician. Forgive me, I can't remember his name right now, but so cool. Gave us an interesting personal history.
I'm going to grab the email.
And yeah, he's got a name like Renford or something, Renton or something. It's really cool. But he told a great story about how he has been listening to our podcast, and he listens to a lot of personal development stuff, and he's enjoying the podcast. Renford, and in Slough. And he talked about how he determined he was going to use the quarter experiment we mentioned many podcasts ago, because he's just wading through them now.
Yeah.
And where you focus intently on a quarter, you imagine vividly you're going to find one on the ground, and usually within 24 hours, you'll find one as though someone has placed it right in your path. The last time I did this, Chris, it so freaked me out. Just a couple of weeks ago, I did the quarter experiment. Imagined vividly I was going to find one lying on the ground. And the next day, Heather and I were walking down through the Distillery District in Toronto. You know where I mean?
Yes.
We took a shortcut from our car. And I was on one side of the sidewalk, she was on the other, and right in front of me was a nice shiny new quarter in front of me, not in front of her. As I bent to pick it up, there was a second one a foot away. I said, "This is insane." Well, Renford has written to us and said that he did the quarter experiment, even though he lives in England,
and he'd never been to the States.
Never been to the States.
Never had
Canada,
American money.
Never had American money, and he changed it in his experiment to a 20p coin.
In his mind.
In his mind, a 20 pence coin, 20p, and forgot about it. And the next day he was paying for something in the store, and in the change that was in his pocket, he found
a very strange
quarter.
coin.
A quarter. I mean, not even the 20p thing, it was a quarter.
An American quarter.
So I'm saying do the quarter experiment. Make it a Canadian one, though. Anywhere in the world you are, and see if it shows up.
I love the absolutely bizarre things that happen to people and that they email us. It's fantastic. So Ranford, awesome. It was totally an awesome email. Send more like that, people. Let's talk about stealing states.
Oh, yes.
Borrowing states from world-class sports.
Yes. Now, we've talked about, on the one hand, about getting people in the zone so that when they're doing sports of any kind, they're at their absolute peak. But we're now talking about doing the reverse, borrowing or stealing states from world-class sports. And here's what I mean. If you have a team you like, Oakland A's or whatever, in any kind of sport, or Manchester United, woo, go Red Devils, or Toronto Maple Leafs, not likely. When you have a team you really like, if they've ever had an occasion that they made it into a championship or a very decisive game and they were doing well, you know what kind of state you were in when they were doing great. It was a highly empowered state. You were congruent. You were breathing well. You were moving well. You were totally focused on the locus of the screen or the sports arena if you're there live. I want you to think back now to your favorite sports team, if you like that sort of thing, or your favorite gymnast, or someone at the Olympics who you followed and really liked and who did spectacularly well. And as you think back to that person and that occasion, enter fully into the state you were in when they succeeded and you felt awesome, and see what you saw, or the nearest approximation of it you can make, and feel everything you felt, and hear all the sounds of the cheering or whatever was there. And now breathe it in and make it your own. Feel it again and keep it. That's right.
Awesome. So basically, you can either go back to a peak state or create a peak state for a sports event or whatever, or you can borrow one that somebody else has experienced.
Well, if it's someone else's experience, it's going to be more difficult because you don't have a vested interest in the team, right?
Yeah, well, sorry, what I mean,
we're doing is
associate yourself into...
Yes, associate yourself into it, but we're saying this is essentially revivification.
Yeah.
So, but we're going right to a specific moment where they knew what it was like and how they felt, and breathe it into the depths of your being, right down to your toes, and feel how great you felt then. Now.
No, it's interesting to talk about sports teams in particular, because I think it was Cialdini who did an experiment with this, where there is this feeling of belonging to the team if the team wins. And so I think the situation went something like this, and it's in his book, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, that people would, let's say after a game, like maybe a university football game or something like that, people would call and ask, how do you feel about how the team did in the game? And if they had won, if the team had won, the people would say, we did blah, 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 whatever it was. And if the team had lost, it was
those filthy swine.
It was much more common. It was a dissociated they.
None of this is surprising because one of the human givens is the need to belong to a tribe.
Of course.
The need to belong to a social group. Like those of you who right now listening are part of our online hypnosis community. You're part of a tribe now.
Winners.
You're storm riders, you're winners. Now, having said that, H.G. Wells documented this very early. He was a futurist in a lot of ways, went beyond the time machine. A lot of his other writings, he saw the concept of a new world order that could be fashioned, and whatever one thinks of that. The interesting comment was, he was one of the first, I believe, if not the very first, to talk about building huge stadiums so people could go and watch sports. Prior to that, nobody watched sports, Chris. People participated in sports. Now we do it vicariously. We belong to a tribe that we're not actually part of. And we get it vicariously by watching hockey games and football games and soccer matches and all these things.
Yeah, a lot of people will ask me, because I don't have cable connection at home anymore, well, how do you watch sports? I said, well, you know what? I don't. Well, what do you mean? You don't like sports? Well, no, I love sports. I'd just rather actually do them than watch them.
Right.
No one can disagree with me when I say that.
Well, you can apply that to porn and a lot of things if you really consider it, can't you? So, we'll edit that out. Next.
That has to be the funniest we'll edit that out situation.
Yeah, and as you know, we will leave it in. So.
Yeah, of course, it's just a joke.
Too damn brilliant. Okay.
All right, let's move on to... How much time do we have left?
Oh, we
here?
lost time, Chris.
We've got
about 10 minutes.
loads of time. So we have... I think we should talk about Whiteout.
Oh, man. Whiteouts are a really interesting phenomena. Hang on, let me do a Jerry Kine here. Whiteouts are a really interesting phenomena. They are the opposite of a high-performance state. A whiteout creates about the lowest, stop laughing, about the lowest performance state you can possibly create is a whiteout. And this is an accident.
I completely forget what a whiteout is.
Well, probably because you're having one now. Years ago on stage, I had a moment that air traffic controllers called losing the picture, which is terrifying if you have 30 planes at varying altitudes and different vectors and you have to land them suddenly. Mm-hmm. So they have someone jump in frantically and take control. They've lost the picture.
Nice metaphor, whiteout.
It is. So I was on stage and working with a bunch of people, and I suddenly became aware that instead of being in a flow state, in uptime, I was in downtime. I was self-aware. I was listening to myself talk.
Critical voice.
I was no, not even critical, just self-awareness, and aware of people looking at me and listening to me. And I lost the frickin' picture. I didn't know where I was, what was going on. It was kind of funny, actually. I didn't really mind it. And after a few seconds, it dissipated. So I was working with this guy on the road for 6 years. We met in Colorado. He's another Brit, and he could talk backwards and do a number of memory feats, and it was a laugh at the time. And anyway, I told him, I said, I get these things occasionally called whiteouts. Have you ever had one? And he said, no, what's that? So I described it to him in considerable depth. Well, he started getting them. And he was furious with me because he said he didn't know they existed. And then he'd be on stage and his little voice in his head would say, don't listen to me, don't listen to me. Like, watch the audience, don't have a whiteout. Don't. And it got so funny.
Notice the language, don't have a whiteout. Try so not to have a whiteout.
So I didn't realize how severely this was affecting him. I just found it hilarious because I didn't mind when I had them because they seemed to last forever, but they're really only a few seconds. So we had an event somewhere, and I got someone in the audience to hand him a note while he was in the middle of his act. He's doing a memory act, and it said, don't have a whiteout.
Don't have a whiteout.
It's a total stranger handing him this, which, of course, instantly triggered a whiteout. Didn't know where he was, what he was doing.
What a pattern interrupt.
Howling with laughter, yes. A pattern interrupt that plunged him into the very colon of a bad state. Oh. So it got even funnier. He was doing his memory act, and we used to have a big rolling blackboard provided at each event. And we'd cover it with a big blanket they'd also provide. And he'd write, multiple digit numbers he'd hear from the audience, and they'd be covered with a blanket. And then the end of the show, he'd turn his back, I'd uncover it, and he'd say them all from memory many minutes later, backwards. So I prepped the blackboard before he got to it. With the
whiteout.
Yes, but written with this side of the chalk, like in giant letters with multiple exclamation marks after it. And he's okay, and he starts talking backwards. He's in the frickin' zone, and he grabs the blanket and whips it away, and it just sees the word whiteout. And he stood there in shock and horror. His face, you'd think he was staring at a multiple car accident with
fighting back layers of
trance. And so he was looking, staring at a car accident with multiple fatalities beyond his control. And his whiteout was just, I thought it was hilarious. Well, he chided me, freaked on me afterwards and said, never mention them to me again. Never. Serious. Don't ever do it again. Which, of course, made it funnier for me. So I laid off mentioning it. But I had told a couple of friends about whiteouts.
Oh, no.
And sure enough, Paul Moyer, his company had hired this guy to come into a corporate event.
Can we use his last name?
We can. Well, we just did. And when the guy went up on stage, Paul went up to him, who he barely knew. He just met him at the event and said,
whiteout.
No, he said, don't have a whiteout. I think he was making a joke. And Paul said he looked at him, like just this shock and horror. And then they announced him. He went up on stage, picked up the microphone, put it back down and walked off stage.
I could see
Came
Paul
back,
doing this.
Picked up the mic again. Paul starts laughing. And he said the guy just went, nope, put it back in the stand. Went 4 failed attempts to start his act. His whiteout was so severe. Absolutely true story.
No, this is an anchor.
Unresourceful state. It's hilarious.
So the state has been anchored to the phrase whiteout.
Yep.
Don't have a whiteout.
Don't anyone have a whiteout.
If you're driving right now, please remember where you're going.
That's right. Stay safe.
All right. That's pretty funny. We've got a couple of more funny stories. I don't think we're going to get through all of them in this podcast, so let's save some for the next.
Let's do that.
Let's do one more. let's do this one. I want you to talk about the power of congruence and the joke that you played on your friend with the fake iPhone app.
Yes. This was just a couple of weekends ago.
Freaking love this one.
I was at a friend's house, Ken Walton. Ken Walton is a really cool guy. He's a hypnotist, NLP practitioner, a fine artist. I mean, his paintings look just absolutely gorgeous. He's a kung fu master. I mean, a real master, grandmaster. He studied for years and years. And he's got a great sense of humor as well. And he's Irish, and he's one of my best friends in the world. Having said all that, him and his wife, my wife and I, and another couple, Wayne and his wife Fern, were all over. We're having dinner together and barbecuing in the pool, and it was just a blast. And Wayne is looking at his iPhone all the time, as we do. And I glanced over his shoulder as I passed, and I saw him input his code. His password. And I just remembered it. And he never saw me pass. And I waited several minutes until, through time misdirection, it wouldn't even have occurred to him I was there when he logged on with it, and he'd already put it down.
As opposed to if he had launched into the joke right away.
Right, which would have got his guard up. Mm-hmm. So we're sitting there, and we're talking about different apps, and I have a lot of apps that I really like. And I said, hey, have you seen Cracker? And he said, what's Cracker? I said, oh, you can crack open the
password.
Thank you. I've got a whiteout. I can crack open the password on any iPhone. If you have an iPhone, I can tell what it is. He said, shut up. It's not possible. I said, it is. I said, I turn it on and walk through a mall, and a little arrow and a compass points in different directions. And as it is, it's flashing and bringing up the passwords of people I'm going past. I said it totally congruently, like it was this most amazing thing, and he would love this app. I said, it's nearly $5. Again, putting a price on it. Yeah. It seems real. He said, well, show me. I said, okay. Hold your iPhone in front of you.
So you didn't have him actually... He wanted to see the app on your phone, and you somehow misdirected him.
I'll show you how it works.
Gotcha.
I said, you have your iPhone? Is it turned on? He said, yeah, it's on sleep. I said, okay. So I got mine in my hand, and I stood facing him for about 8 feet away. And I said, okay, just activate the app. Okay, it's search. Okay, it's found your iPhone. And I interrupted myself. Yeah. I said, okay, it's search. Oh, it's found your iPhone. And he's going, it has not. I said, okay, just doing a check. It takes a while on the last couple of... Okay, I've got your first number.
And you read it out?
I said, no, I didn't read anything.
No, okay.
I said, I've got the second one. And he's like smirking like, yeah, you do. And I said, third one, it sometimes takes... Oh, no, I've got them all. He said, get lost. I said, hand me your phone. So he does. And I just went, unlocked it, handed it to him. He's going, that is amazing. What's it called?
But you never looked at your phone.
Never looked at my phone because I was so congruent. And because I interrupted myself as though the phone had interrupted me in the process, it seemed believable. Congruence, guys, will get you almost anything.
And it's way more funny.
And it's way more funny when you're doing stupid jokes and you're very congruent. So he said, what's it called? I said, Cracker. So I'm out in the barbecue with Ken telling him, and we're having a good laugh. And I look, and Wayne's trying to find it in the iTunes store. And he said it's not here. I said, no, it's spelled with a K. And he's like, oh, picks his phone up, starts all over. And then finally I told him the truth.
Which is just like the words glanative and dursative, where people just assume they're spelling it wrong.
Have some fun with it. Good grief.
Oh, that's so hilarious. All right. I think that pretty much wraps up the time we have for content. And, well, as if the closing metaphor and empowering questions aren't.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah.
Let's do the empowering question.
Okay. Here's my empowering question for you today, and I want you to let this resonate and let it change you. What stories are you telling yourself, even though they're not true? Let me ask that again. What stories are you continuously telling yourself, even though they're not true? And how is this affecting you and the quality of your life?
Just let that resonate for a while.
That's right.
And on the next podcast, we'll have a story to share that relates to this. Mike, do we have a closing metaphor? I believe we do.
We do. This is an interesting one that goes back a number of years, and it's another practical joke, but it's a good metaphor as well, and it ties in to the empowering question you just heard. A very good friend of mine is Grandmaster or Sijo Gary Fu. Gary Fu is the head of the Wugar Mosat system of martial arts. And I studied with him. I earned a red belt in it and then went on to do other things. But he's an excellent teacher, and I modeled a lot of his teaching style. But Gary is also really funny to joke with because he's got a great sense of humor. Except when the jokes are on him, which I guess we can all say that about ourselves. So one day, I got into his computer in his office, and he didn't know. And he just left it on. And I went to the autocorrect in Windows in Microsoft Word. So you can take any particular word and have it change into something else every time it's typed. So if you put Mike, it always capitalizes it. If you didn't, etc. You know what I mean. Well, I took the autocorrect and I took a particular word. I think it was there, but it was the THEIR there, as in their money, their house, which I knew he probably wouldn't be typing on his computer in the very near future. And that way I would not be seen as being connected with it at all. And I changed there to autocorrect to something in like a 24-point font in red letters saying, "Your computer's infected. You have a virus. Shut down immediately." And I forgot about it. And I found out later it was absolutely hilarious. He's working on the computer on serious, important stuff for a manual he was writing late at night. And he's just saying, and they got to their abode and bang, "You have a computer virus. Your computer's screwed up." All this, and he freaked. And he shut it down. And then he put up-to-date antivirus in and ran a scan, and it found nothing. And he panicked. And he used a different antivirus software, and that found nothing. And so he kept typing again, and it came up again. So now he's in full panic mode, and he called his father-in-law, and he came around with software. His father-in-law did computers for the Royal Bank of Canada and was really up on this, and they worked on this damn thing till 2 a.m. and never found the virus and never found the autocorrect, and we're just baffled by it. And he didn't find it nearly as hilarious as I did. But he kept telling himself the story, that there was something wrong with his computer.
I'm Chris Thompson, and this has been episode number 38 of Brain Software with Dr. Mike Mandel. Hope you enjoyed the show. We will be back with episode 39 before you know it. More awesome content coming your way. In the meantime, please head on over to iTunes and leave a rating for the show and write an honest review for the show. The more reviews that we get, the more people that we can get this podcast out to. The whole world is listening and loving the content. We want to get more and more people involved. Also, make sure that if you're interested in learning more about hypnosis, conversational techniques, right through to therapeutic techniques, the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy is your way to become an amazing hypnotist. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/academy. And finally, if you're interested in being here in Toronto on September the 7th and taking a handwriting analysis...
You will love it.
You will. Then you can head on over to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/handwriting, and you will... your mind will be blown. That's it, everybody.
I think if you're going to have any sort of cat, probably the best sort is an exotic one. And we've had cats my whole life. You come home, there's nothing like a nice moggy waiting to see you. And we'd have a cup of tea and the cat would come in, and just a lovely thing. Now we've got another Bengal cat, and he looks like a little cheetah, and his name's Tesla. But we play this game with him. It's a bit odd. The funny sort of thing. We talk about odd things to the cat, and you've got to say it in a shrill high voice in time with the bell, and rub his tummy and say, "Vapors and fragrance and odors and stinkiness and smelliness and vapors and fumes in the bum of the cat and gases and vapors and odors jet propelling the cat across the room and the bum and the stinkiness and the fragrance and the gases of the bum of the cat."